with no immediate help delivered, with immediate action, it is feasible. What was once crucial is now grave. Crucial is the cross. It's derived from the cross, crucius. Grave is derived from gravity. That's the new. It's a grave situation. It's all the same situation after all. Welcome everybody to Mud Flood was Armageddon. The Mud Flood was the Armageddon. Don't let them tell you anything else unless they are willing to debate you in a fair and honest way. Now, does fair and honest sound like demeaning and fisticuffs or things like that? I see Salty Sergio's in the world. I saw one guy was debating with Salty Sergio and he started losing the argument. So he called Sergio a monkey boy. Yeah. How about that? That's one way to debate. It's not the way to win an argument. Let's get this going. Big title, big expectations. A lot of that is not the thing. Why are all these pictures open? I'm going to have to go find the thing in the home of the thing. There it is. Look at that. You have been disclaimed. Now I'm going to show these pictures I got. What's this? Mystery sound. No, that's the desktop. So look at this funky picture. See these lines on it? That I couldn't get rid of them. That's from the flashlight I got. So here's the stone I've been working on. It started out looking like a clam. It's looking less like a clam. It had these metal pieces in it. I thought they were going to just keep continuing. Here's a better look at them and the crack that I've been washing away this stone. I might have shown part of it. Here's a 3D simulation of what, luckily I just stumbled on this girl's channel. This girl here, she's talking about fossils. She's confused about the fossils. Boy, they get big because this is kind of what I was working on. And you can see that's the size of a Sharpie. So that'd be 3 times the size of mine. Just to show you, 4 views 2 days ago. She must have done this for a class. But here's the fossil in real life that I'm kind of working on, and I've been dissolving it. You know how I like to dissolve it. Okay. I guess we're going to interrupt this now to let you know that the United States Justice Department later stated that Harvard did not discriminate against Asian people by only allowing 2% of their top scorers to be Asian. Harvard did not demonstrate that they did not discriminate during admissions based on race. So in 2018, they're going to deny it. And I brought that up because I saw that some people like Static in the Attic is talking about white racism, we're being held back, affirmative action. Well, there wouldn't be any white people if they only took the best, smartest people. So this is how you have to really get after the stones. When you're looking for a chemical reaction, don't worry. These things go inert. They're not like plastics or glyphosate that is going to stay in the earth. It's from the earth. It's the mixing with the oxygen. You don't want to breathe it, but just bury it, water it down. It just turns into lime. Wow, here's that clam. Here's what I started with. I didn't see those gold rods, or I think they're gold or copper. I did see a little bit of a crack. And here, that looks like the top of one of the gold things, copper. And then there's a few of them. You know, the smaller they are, the harder they are to grab. I grabbed the big one, and I finally got a little one on there, and I said, that is good enough. So I took it down with a bunch of acid and some other stuff. I've shown you how I do it. And there was that thing. And another one. And the crack was starting to show, like, oh, okay, that was a membrane or something that was getting washed away. So this doesn't look anything like, remember what it looked like when it started? And we're going to look at the Great Britain actually had a silver penny made out of silver for the King George III. I did a close-up of that coin because it has one of those, you know, hey, it's a penny, it's a 1, and it's a J772 for the year. It's a good example to show that, hey, come on. What's it all mean? Hey, this is a Conestoga Indian. That's what they called them. I almost made a title. Did the Conestoga wear a toga? Is this a toga? Not really. But if you just slid this up over the shoulder, this young man would be like, how do you like my fox? Or, you know, whatever I got hanging from my head. Weird fashion, right? What do we got? You know, they used to call those medals, X marks the spot. The Mohawks. No more of the J772. Hey, in Alamosa, efforts to secure the grant were given without any hearing for parties affected and those holding water rights in New Mexico and Texas, adding an element of intrigue to the situation. The Ku Klux Klan came out in full regalia in Center. It was rumored that every town in the valley had a chapter of hooded men. This was from my newspaper. I subscribed to the newspaper. This was this day in history, 100 years ago. It also said corsets were still selling for 98 cents. Lie hominy, 2 for 25 cents. Dutch boy white lead paint. That is pure poison. It's 20 cents. So this is from my local paper. He's saying that a new pope and, Pew Research saying a transubstantiation, which the report defined as the belief that the bread and wine used for communion become the body and blood of Christ. Only 1/3 of the U.S. Catholics agree with their church that that's true, but they don't care. Who cares? They Hail Mary, they say, and it's all right there. I just thought, what is this guy doing? Are they making a movie? Is he proposing? Are they acting like this is how we go to dinner on the new canals that that's got to go. That's got to go. Hope you were seeing all that. Welcome, Off Grid John. Let's take a look at that. We have a second. Here it is. Dutch boy lead paint. This is just Dutch boy paint. It doesn't say anything about the being the lead paint. What the heck? Anyway, I did some thing about that additive, and it was something that they didn't know. And it's not that all lead is bad, but they did that one wrong. Let's keep rolling. I've got to go through these things. So we got the Conestoga wagon. I showed all the things. That was my personal Bible study. Let's just get this going.
Good spot to harvest the stone. Then it was just the workers cutting down trees, digging up stumps. They always had a pile for all of that they called it the overburden. And there was a big pile of that where all that stuff got hauled to. It was a lot of hard work. I can't imagine how.
You see, they just went from now it's wood beams and we know how to use fulcrum and we can lift these with ropes and wood. Here we show them when they're showing this group, there's a steam mule, a steam train. That's how they're doing it. And that's how they're lifting it. Nothing to do like this.
I can't imagine how hard it was doing a lot of that by hand.
It's all fake. You don't have to imagine it. Can you imagine how they faked it? They all found it. It was always here. Yeah, there was a lot of cleaning involved, but there was none of this. None of these. Look at this high wire act. This is how you put up a tent for a circus, not describe how you build miles of canal with polished limestone on 6 sides. One side left rough to disturb the water to make it better for the canals.
Once you've got all that gone and you have exposed stone, they would hand drill single holes in a line, like perforating a piece of paper, and drop charges.
Look at the size of what she's talking. And then they would take their hammers and bang out these big limes. Oh, I'm sorry. You seem like a nice young lady, but without the steam power, you're not going to do it.
This machine was called a channeling machine. So it was run on a little track with wheels along with a mobile boiler that would...
You can see the size of the man on the far right side.
It's the dinky.
The main purpose of the dinky was in a lot of the quarrying operations, they had what was called...
I just want you to see all the cool stuff because, we're just laying the groundwork for everything's fake. But they did use quarries. You can't track them. You can't track rocks. This rock came from here or there.
Acquired the independent quarry, but it went bankrupt by 1910 and was forced.
Isn't that the way it goes? But it's convenient. Look at that. That's like my handwriting. I wish. Kinda. Can you write very well? When I concentrate, I can write pretty good.
Methods and cut and use all those things and then take them to other people.
That would work. And they're using wood and a hand crank because it's not as big as some of them and it's not lifting it as high. And they had that one little train to roll it. So I got a Bible verse next. The Watchers thing. So we already did that. This is Daniel 4, so it must be leftover I was talking about. And I'll say it again. You know, if you read the story about Nebuchadnezzar, and he turning into a wild beast for 7 years and come out of it thinking, the Watchers are the bad guys. I know that because the book of Enoch told me. So they tricked God and tricked Nebuchadnezzar. But in the long run, it worked out because Nebuchadnezzar said, then I praise the Most High. And he made his kingdoms do the same thing. I thought we were going to talk. I showed the stones, let you know I'm working on that. New covenant, the days are coming, declaring the Lord, when I will sow. All right. But, you know, Jeremiah doesn't really have, you know, when you think of Isaiah, what's the go-to? Isaiah 66. When you think of like Proverbs, you might think of Proverbs, you know, 31, the diligent wife, Psalms, Psalm 51, the great King David. Again, at the mighty fall 7 times, David fell and he showed perfect repentance. This is how the apple of God's eye repents. You take it like a man, you reap what you sow. And it was serious. But in Jeremiah, where would you think? I mean, where would you go? Off my mind, I mean, 27 or 32. Jeremiah buys Hannah Mill's field. So he knows that I'm buying land here because we're coming back. 27. Why is that jumping into my mind? The yoke of Nebuchadnezzar. Okay. Here's what Jeremiah told him when the king brings him in. But as for you, do not listen to your prophets, your diviners, your interpreters of dreams, your mediums, or your sorcerers who declare, you will not serve the king of Babylon, for they prophesy to you a lie that will serve to remove you from the land. I will banish you and you will perish. But the nation that will put its neck under the yoke of the king of Babylon and serve him, I will leave it in its own land to cultivate and reside in it, declares the Lord. And Zedekiah, king of Judah, how is it possible that the book of Isaiah talks about the same time period, but he never mentions Zedekiah as the true king? But here he does. He says it's Zedekiah. He goes, look, put your necks under the yoke and serve him and his people. You will live. Why should you and your people die by the sword and the famine and plague, as the Lord has decreed against any nation that does not serve the king of Babylon? It's the start of the time of the Gentiles, and it wasn't going to end until a bunch of Gentiles heard the Hebrews praising God, Jesus, in their own language. They thought they were drunk. They were hearing him in their own language. They were there for one reason. Their gods, the Persian king, the Babylonian king, said the only true God is in Israel. And the people from Israel turned it into a den of thieves. And yet I'm going on about something you already know. Verse 14, do not listen to the words of the prophet who say, you must not serve King of Babylon, for they are prophesying to you a lie. For I have not sent them, declares the Lord, and yet they are prophesying falsely in my name. So that's why, but it's not like Isaiah 66. That's like everybody, they're like, good, something familiar, because it's all good. Heaven is my throne, the earth is my footstool. What kind of house will you build for me? Where's the other one? Peace like a river, where's that one at? This is the end of the book. As the new heavens and the new earth which I make will endure before me, so will your descendants and your name endure. From one new moon to another, from one Sabbath to another, all mankind will come and worship before me, says the Lord. Wow. Isaiah 14, that's a go-to, right? How you have fallen from heaven, O Daystar, son of dawn. How you have been cut down to the ground, destroyer of nations. I will ascend to the heavens. I will raise my throne above the stars of God. I will sit on the mount of assembly. Sometimes when you think of, sometimes you do. I know I do. I was trying to think, how many times has there been a U.S. Senate seat where a different person was elected 4 times in a row? Now, what I'm trying to tie it into is Barack Obama, because Barack Obama trying to kill my son was one of these things, or did not trying to kill my son, but my son was spying in those planes when Mitt Romney said, Barack Obama is weak on terror. So he started the drone program, and they were using old worn out planes, and my son almost died in a flat spin. Another crew did die, and I was trying to figure it out. And it turned out to be him. And I'm thinking, well, I'm from Chicago, and I remember when he was just an organizer who did moonlighting, and he was gay as all get out. And then he became the president. Boom, boom, boom. How'd that happen? And I remember somebody retired. Carol Moseley Braun ran. She was the first Black female senator. She ended up hanging out with cannibals in Africa, didn't get elected. A Roman Catholic, Peter Fitzgerald, spent all his own money and defeated the machine and got Carol Moseley Braun out. And then he only wanted to run 1 term, and Jerry Ryan, a businessman from Chicago, was beating Barack Obama. And then Jerry Ryan had his divorce papers released because he was married to the girl that was the movie star in the Babylon 5. It was Jack Ryan and Jerry Ryan, and the news was that the conservative Republican wanted to take his hot wife to sex clubs. So he's gone. Barack Obama wins because they bring in another Black guy from New Jersey, Alan Keyes, and he just gets killed. gets to give a national speech at the national election doesn't even finish 4 years of his term as a senator, and he's the president of the United States. Gay as the day is long. Everybody in Chicago knows the story about Buddy Love and how they propped him up. This is all a prop up. It's all a setup of perverts. How hard did the girls that knew, were they shocked? Hey, I know where you can make a couple $100 working for these guys. Do you think that they never heard about that before? Do you think that these girls that line up to do the porn just learned it that day when it was their birthday? Our society has turned us into, if you're not born again, all you care about is sex, day and night. And that's their world today. And that's why it's like it. This whole, is it aliens? Is it God? They don't really care. They don't really care. So that's what I was doing, but it just wouldn't give me anything, man. It was just like, if you put in Barack Obama's name, it's just like, oh, here's the election of it, and how, you know, Obama spent this much, he spent this much. It was a landslide. But this is the guy, Jack Ryan, active partner for Goldman Sachs. You'll recognize the girl he was married to. She was a movie star. Well, they don't have a picture of her because they don't want people to remember this part of the scandal. Then it was Peter Fitzgerald, Roman Catholic, financed his own party so he could get the girl that hang out with cannibals in Africa out of office in Illinois, which is hard because, like, in politics is like coaching in the NFL. Excuse me. I'm a Christian minister, and I'm saying what is freely known is that once you go black, you can hardly go back because you'll be considered a discriminator. If you're a black team that hires an NFL coach, it's hard to fire him. And once you elect a black person in office, they're in there. I mean, let's just look at, what was that guy's name? I'm not going to do it. Gus something. You got elected 40 times. They don't care. They'll keep electing you. They elected Barack Obama. They propped these guys up. They said it was, you know, it was only about the divorce. It was this girl. She was the famous Borg. All right, I didn't know. It's all those, it's a science fiction thing. It wasn't the Babylon 5. I thought that was the name of the show. But she was the movie star. She was the girl in red. And she was also Veronica Ronnie on the Boston Public. So everybody knows this girl. And she refused. And she said, what? You brought me here to have sex in public? Why, the very idea. How about I got a better idea? I want to divorce you. What?
These are their so-called founding fathers saying this. Now, James Madison argued that senators should come from and represent the wealth of the nation. He also sneered at politicians who supported giving all men perfect equality in their political rights. So do you see that they never intended for all men to have equality? The article goes on to say these men wrote of the need to protect the minority against the tyranny of the majority. but saw no threat.
I was just, I didn't know to make this part of the show or not, but I was listening to the Gates of Hulda because the first time I saw the Gates of Hulda, I thought for sure it was a lesbian feminist thing because, back in the 80s, they were the only ones talking about Hulda being the queen of the prophets. Uh, but no, it's Black history, and I subscribed. I'm gonna like that video. What else she say? Tell me something else.
In 2021. I'm going to put this on as you have it on, as I think about Eden Alexander and all those who are suffering. I'm just so grateful for our friendship and what we've done against anti Semitism, what we've done for the Abraham Accords. Now, some of you may know this guy on the right. He calls himself a spiritual advisor. He's supposed to be a rabbi. His name is Shmuley. If you Google the names of these two, you'll find a lot of videos highlighting how close the two of them were. He was also the spiritual advisor to Michael Jackson. Now,
What?
Washington Post article says Cory Booker and the Orthodox rabbi were like brothers.
What?
Now they don't speak.
Uh-oh.
The
Uh-oh.
article talks about what happened when Booker attended a Purim festival in 1993. It says Booker was laughing and dancing while carrying the Orthodox rabbi on his back. It goes on to say that this rabbi was a close friend and spiritual mentor during what Booker describes as a profoundly shaping period of his life. But apparently,
Wow. Who knew, right? And this is right after the Cory Booker said, like, look, Cory Booker, he's awesome.
for a healthy democracy. So the slave trading nations are now trying to erase what their oppressive behavior was like and how it affected our people. And this is why we need to uncover the truth about what happened. But we can't just expose the truth about what
We
happened.
know the truth about Rosa Parks. It was all a setup. This was all planned. Everybody knows it. So we'll just keep going.
The Paxton Boys were only stopped by Benjamin Franklin at Germantown, leading a well-supplied.
The Paxson boys, they're living in a Star Fort city, as you can tell, inherited. You know it's inherited. But who were they? They were the killers of the Conestogas. These guys did it. They dressed like, you know, Quakers and acted like Quakers, and they are just fiends.
John died in 1746. His 50% was willed to his brother Thomas, much to the chagrin of Richard. Prior to the walking purchase, the brothers made a series of purchases from the natives along their southern border, cementing their de jure ownership as far west as the Cumberland Valley from Maryland's claims, as well as most of the land southeast of where the Juniata spills into the Susquehanna. The name Cumberland Valley should tip you off as to what was about to happen next. Beginning in 1754 and formally ending in 1763, the French and Indian War opened up the Pennsylvania frontier more than any
Thanks for the boring us.
than the Alleghenies, a promise they fully intended to break had the expense of this colonial war not alarmed Parliament, seeking to avoid any more costly colonial endeavors. The frontiersmen, not having lost any of their orneriness,
Oh, I
chafed
hate
against these
computer
boundaries,
art.
though they were very hard for the British to enforce. The frontiersmen began escalating violence with the remaining natives east of the proclamation line. forming vigilante gangs in response to the uprising led by the Odawa war chief Pontiac in the Great Lakes region.
Pontiac.
Pontiac's rebellion extended
So
as
who believes that Pontiac attacked at a wooden fort that only had a little dirt entrance there, and that they didn't have a star fort there? No, but maybe it was a good place to start here to show you that how they depict the Paxton Boys in this is not how they usually talk about them.
leading a well-supplied militia with cannons and cavalry, many Quakers foregoing their pacifism to resist the backcountry invaders. Following the end of Pontiac's rebellion,
Hey, look, a Conestoga wagon. They started using these in 1716. And this, honestly, I don't know if he would be able to lift that. They're much bigger than they're portraying them here.
the frontiersmen turned their ire to the British administrators, who they saw as restricting their right to the lands of the Ohio, which was insultingly put under Canadian jurisdiction following the war. In 1765, a frontiersman vigilante gang calling themselves the Loyal Vigilantes organized around Scots-Irish veteran of the French and Indian War and
That sounds like a secret society name.
gang calling themselves the Loyal Vigilantes organized around Scots-Irish veteran of the French and Indian War and Pontiac's Rebellion, John Smith.
Okay.
After a
So here's it
rejected the
it
first
was at the end of the golden age, time to make promises that weren't going to be kept.
frame. The Quaker settlers themselves had, according to later Governor William Markham, all but forced the first frame on Penn, many vowing only to settle in the colony if their demands were met.
Now, I hope you noticed this picture because I barely noticed it. They're repairing the roof on an already completed 3-story brick building. Look what we found. Now, to get the background, it's these kings that William Penn, just all of a sudden, Pennsylvania.
Intellectually gifted, a trait that would later cause his father much grief. Attending Oxford University's Christ Church College in 1660. At the family's Irish estate in about 1659, the young William encountered the Quaker missionary Thomas Lowe, sparking an interest in Quakerism.
Women pastors, what could go wrong? So what I look up here? Conestoga tribe. Yep, I knew I should look at the tribe, not the wagon. They're called the Susquehanna. Susquehannock. So we'll be looking at the Susquehannock. That's a small area. So there's the famous picture of, it says, they're giants. They're a giant like people in size, and they dress like this. They live in Virginia, and this is how they do the sweat lodge. John Smith told them that. The person that married he didn't marry Pocahontas, somebody named Rolfe married her. Is that a J607? Welcome to our Padawan. Enjoying the map. There's the X that marks the spot. Wait a minute, is that the X that? They found all these cities. They probably found the boats. And what are you going to do? You're just going to put some food on the table. Get a little rumbly in your tumbly. You need some food. Somebody's going to come out and say, I'm your king. Conestoga Manor. So they made all kinds of treaties and got along well. So here's some artifacts. What do we got? Drinking utensils. I'm sure there's a peace pipe in there somewhere. Some nice stuff. I don't know about what that is. Couple more pictures. They were described by John Smith, active in the fur trade, jumped right in with, trading relationships with Virginia, New Sweden, New Netherland. They were in conflict with Maryland until the treaty was negotiated. They were the target of intermediate attack by the Iroquois. Population declined sharply, as it's known to do. They have to fit them into history. They saw there were giant people. They left a record, and our job is to, catch them and how they try to cover it up. So here's those Paxton boys in an 1842 lithograph stabbing and killing the Indians, saying, but this mud flood house is where it happened. I think they tried to show it as you can barely see the ladder. Uncharted Lancaster. Man, I had a busy day. Busy. Had to do those stones like 3 times, and that's time consuming. I don't know. That's my algorithm. I didn't even have time to comment on this. Really? How do you know what a map is? What are you even yapping about?
Many people as a lion among the beasts of the forest, as a young lion among the flocks of sheep, who, if he go through, both treadeth down and teareth.
Okay, the remnant of Jacob among the Gentiles in the midst of the beasts. Where are you going with this?
The land of Jesus.
Okay,
You
land of
see
Jesus.
it over and over with the Strait of Anion between California and the land of Jesus, and you see Tartary and the land of Jesus being separated by the Strait of Vries.
What kind
Another
of
map
is that? That's a globe.
again showing California as an island, and you can see Terra di Yeso, land of Jesus. This says was discovered.
We have to start giving credit to the people that are doing the rewrite. What else are they going to do? They're going to rabbit trail you.
Another map.
Right, we get it. For the last 10 years, we get it.
Basically, for the United States to build what's called the DEW line, and it's a radar system to warn us of things. It's called distant early warning. That's what DEW line means, of anything that was coming into the Canadian and United States space, basically. And you can see here that this borders on the upper part of Russia. Is that land above it, or is it ocean? And there's Greenland. It's a part of the DEW line as well.
So we're looking at a globe thinking it's at the North Pole. You're going to go, oh, with the Admiral Byrd, please. No.
America.
Jason.
And that the upper part into Canada was more of the larger amount of land of, quote, America. And so just take that.
How? Oh, hollow earth?
Like Freemasonry does, Admiral Byrd, he wants to tell you the truth, but he can't. That's why they put the shushes over their mouth and all that. They know that they're in the little season. They know the Millennial Kingdom's in our past. Admiral Byrd.
You think so? You think Admiral Byrd knew, so he was distracting. He wasn't trying to draw attention to the magnetic North Pole, which is over here at this magnetic rock, not here, but this must be the entrance to the hollow earth for everybody that's only one step away from Atlantis. Go.
And this possibly could be where the camp of the saints is right now. This
I just threw up in my mouth.
The land of Jesus. And again, that is just pure speculation.
Yeah, it's just dangerous speculation. Hey, what's this say? Here's a 1841 written. There's their native attack. I probably wore this out, but we were going to look at these pictures because I got them here. Hey. Well, thanks for the small picture. Really? Why is it so small? So they found the Starfort town here. Here's the Paxton expedition, inscribed to the author of the farce. Wow. Thanks for admitting it. I really appreciate that. This is farce. This is farce. What's the name of that movie where they're trapped in the village? Village with an A. You'll appreciate this. You're going to like it. Anyway, when he explains this is farce, I'm going to get it. We'll see. We'll get a little bit of him going here.
He is the victim of a crime.
We have agreed never to go back. Never.
What was the purpose of our leaving? Let us not forget it was out of hope of something good and right.
You should not have made decisions without us. You have gone too
I'm
far.
guilty, Robert. I made a decision of the heart I cannot look into another's eyes and see the same look I see in August's without justification. It is too painful. I cannot bear it.
You have jeopardized everything we've made.
Who do you think will continue this place, this life? Do you plan to live forever? It is in them that our future lies. It is in Ivy and Lucius that this way of life will continue. Yes, I have risked. I hope I am always able to risk everything for the just and right cause. If we did not make this decision, we could never again call ourselves innocent. And that, in the end, is what we have protected here. Innocence. That I'm not ready to give up.
Give up. What they do is they find out and they keep the people afraid of animals that'll come and tear up the town. But it's a farce. And when she has to explain it, that's what he uses. He says, this is farce. And they make it all about why they had to do it. One person's opinion.
When it comes to people's opinions on movies and their willingness to choose this way of life on their own, robs them of the genuine purity that they desire.
And that, in the end, is what we have protected here. Innocence.
Which is why Shyamalan has Ivy respond with such sadness after she touches that.
And that's what he says, it's farce. We had to scare them. She's blind, but she can tell.
Bony claw of the creature. She once again reached out in faith, hope, and love, but this time was confronted by her parents' fear and depravity.
I'm sad for you, Papa.
Another instance of a character choosing to contain and to hide rather than to reveal and to address is Noah. It's because he wouldn't, or at least couldn't express his love to Ivy, that he ultimately felt compelled to stab Lucius.
Should have given you the PG-13 warning there. Anyway, it was a star fort. Don't ever believe anything else. We're rolling. It was these guys. They made the map. Not where's the square? I see a compass. I feel encompassed about. We saw the year. Scale of leagues, half leagues, 20,000 leagues under the sea. You hear of leagues and fathoms in horse racing, a very popular sport at the time. This is what you call a garter. It's called a garter. See, it's got like a belt. But if you want to know who's important in the world today, you want Paco to be led to type in Japan was in it. It's awesome. They love it because it's all about chivalry. It was all white, and then when they started, they let in some Japanese people because they're so smart, and they became really good friends with everybody in Europe. And then when they were like, wait a minute, you're way smarter than us, they killed them. But they were a member of this. Does this look familiar? You don't see a lot of Wikipedia pages that have 154 pictures. This is the Order of the Garter. I showed you. Where's that thing I showed you? Look, it's everywhere. Once you get the Order of the Garter and realize as soon as they let this guy in and taught them that, you know, yeah, it's like a game of Risk. We're going to play a game of Risk. And he thought, cool, okay. And then they were going to win, so all the other nations jumped on them. And they said, how do you like it now? Look at that girl. At one time, there was a Saturday Night Live skit where he had a tape recording conversation where he told this girl that he wished he could be changed into a tampon and live inside her for a day. Something like that. That's the queen now. She's a honorary member because he can put anybody in it. He's going to be meeting his maker pretty soon. He's got the cancer. So you can't make them fancy enough. You can't, whenever you think you have it fancy enough, you're about to get kicked out of the order. In the Navy. I was making fun of them. Oh, see, it is a belt. It's a belt. And this is the garter for Franz Joseph of Austria because they're all related. They were all getting along until Japan got invited in and did so well on their test scores that, and then all that juggling and samurai stuff. You know that codfish war in Spain and Newfoundland? Do you ever wonder, does anybody ever know, do they have a lot of those benefits of the cod liver oil? Is that something to it? Is that one of the missing health ingredients that we're missing? Order of the Garter Belt. Yeah, they got everybody dressed up like women back then, and they're acting the women would get like, I'm not going on stage. Good, I'll do it. That's what they would say, not me. We can't look at all these pictures. We're just going to slide down to here and say, huh. Knights and ladies of the Thistle. Knights and dames of the Grand Cross. Junior orders of chivalry. They upheld the chivalry. They couldn't help it but be chivalristic. Now, the garter, that's more like a garter than the belt. I'm not sure when this type of garter became famous for being thrown around at weddings. I was studying this. Guilty.
228. In these example calculations, I deliberately avoided having to.
Why isn't it distracting to him to wear this glove with only 2 fingers? I think it's so they don't smudge their numbers.
Double a fraction, but clearly doubling is a key part of this process, and so they would often encounter the issue of having to double one of these unit fractions. So it's no surprise then that the Rhine Mathematical Papyrus had what is sometimes called a 2/n table, showing how to double individual parts. This first row
we can understand what a table is, but the Rhine table, hieroglyphics, slow down, bizarre fraction boy.
Thus that the 5th part, if doubled, is the 3rd part plus the 15th part. Notice that there's no numerators. We only see the denominators because we know that the numerators are 1. Then we see that the 7th part, if doubled, is going to be the 4th part plus the 28th part. The 9th part, if doubled, will be the 6th part plus the 18th part, and so on. Note that there are no even numbers shown here because doubling the even parts is easy. Doubling the 4th part gives the 2nd part. Doubling the 8th part gives the 4th part.
Wow, start over about here. Where
fractions. However, it's worth noting that these we can take out of this then to begin writing it as an Egyptian fraction is 1/5. 5/21 is less than 1/5, so this is the biggest unit fraction we can take out of it. And then we have to express what remains as unit fractions. So we had 5/21, which if we multiply the numerator and denominator by 5 is 25/105. And so far, we've taken away 1/5. If we multiply that by 21/21, we've taken away 21 out of 105. So we see what remains to be represented with more Egyptian fractions is 4 out of 105. And we can then continue our greedy algorithm. What's the biggest unit fraction we can take out of this? Well, if we multiply 4 by 26, we get
Give it a little bit
104.
more time.
That means 4 isn't quite 1/26 of 105. So in fact, the biggest unit fraction we could take out is not 1/26, but the next one, 1/27. Now again, we could use common denominators, multiply this by 35/35, and multiply this by 9/9.
Okay, that's making it complicated. Here, we'll get right back to the interesting.
1/4 in the middle, 1/8 is the eyebrow, 1/16 is this right section of the eye, 1/32 here, and 1/64 there. These are all reciprocals of powers of 2.
Oh,
1/2, 1/2 squared, 1/2 cubed.
You know,
And
I could add into this show, reciprocals are how bankers made us trillions in debt when trillion shouldn't even be a number that you know, because think of something that's smaller, like a billion. What I've said it before, I've asked it, what's the difference between $1 billion and $1 million? $1 billion is the difference. There's no statistic. $1 million is nothing statistically to $1 billion.
and so on. And what do we get if we add all 6 of these fractions up? Well, interestingly, we are just short of 1. When you add up all 6 of the fractions, you get 63/64. And in accordance with the tale, it's said that the god Thoth provided the final 64th to restore the eye to a whole. Now, as fascinating as this is, there is actually some historical disagreement on the legitimacy of this fact that the eye of...
You see? Where's that where he runs it down? I know you don't want to find out about in. Is this the good one? Well, that's enough from this guy.
Those working at height would have to endure 200km/h freezing winds. There's the threat of avalanches. Pouring concrete would become next to impossible. None of it sounds good.
You know, they stop the construction site mid-October till mid-May, and they cannot maintain the construction because of the...
Hey, you know what's funny about this dam? I don't know if you think it's funny or coincidental, but look at this dam, and they even say it. Hoover Dam, the Boulder Dam, the big dam in the United States that we marvel over, and there's a lot of suspicious people, rightfully suspicious. The dam I'm showing you is exactly the Hoover Dam. It's that model made 3 years before. I'll check your math in a minute, Rocky.
Snow, and it's much too cold for work with concrete.
Enormous piles of snow aside, there's the sheer remoteness of it all. The nearest city, Lucerne, is about 50 miles away behind numerous sharply twisting mountain passes, which can make getting the right materials, equipment and people to the site very difficult.
Come on, back then.
Take the 2 massive red tower cranes behind me, standing 92 meters above this site.
They're going to fix it.
Sections brought here by 70 different lorries through the twisting Grimsel Pass, the only route they could take.
I've seen switchbacks before. but I've never seen switchbacks that are like a racetrack.
And because there's not much space on this site, they had to be assembled straight away. There's no room for storage. So timing those deliveries perfectly was an immense challenge.
Compared to your average construction projects, it all feels like a lot of hard work. But like...
So here's the original Hoover Dam that was the test pilot so that the United States can say, we did it. Look at us in the Depression. It's all fake, everybody. But the answer today is to build another dam in front of it and hope for the best. A little bit of the James Bond aspect of when they need to do something cool, they use this area and this bridge. I'm
on my way to see an incredible construction project in the most incredible of locations. Everything about this project is epic, including the drive to get here. Look at this, waterfalls, the death-defying roads, mountains, snow. It's like something
iconic. Look at that. It's an Aston Martin, and is that a 67 Mustang? It's probably got a 289 with a Hirsch shift kit.
You expect me to talk? No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die.
Now, I'm not Sean Connery, and trust me, that ain't an Aston Martin, but I am here on a very special...
That's the same spot, isn't that cool?
...assignment of my own. You see, about 20 miles that way is an historic piece of infrastructure that served the people of this region well for nearly 100 years without any problems at all.
Ooh, I wonder if the Lake Mead is going to be a problem. So here they did it. I think you want to hear this.
Just down there is the Spittelam Dam, one of two man-made walls that were built a long time ago to form this enormous body of water known as Lake Grimsel. Why does any of that matter? Well, it may not be as famous as the dam it looks exactly like in America, but this structure does have its own place in history.
Ah, man, I really feel cool or, happy that you get to know this now. I'm happy that I get to know it now. I'm happy. I want this is a big channel, 3.5 million. I want the mud flooders to know that we're not going to jump into the river again just because they tell us to. Like the Smothers Brother guy said, wrap it up, dude. Dude.
Construction projects can sometimes raise questions about whether or not they're really necessary, but that's not the case here. This historic structure simply has to make way for a new and improved version.
Well, if the people back in the day thought that they needed Hoover Dam where it is, and they needed this Split Man Dam here, then I'm all for it. I really believe. Did I show you that the rods I got out of that thing? Man, I've been doing these rocks, man. It's like, I accidentally tried to breathe some of it, I think. So there it was. And I have to take off this gray matter to get at, what they call a clam is literally the midbrain. How big were those giants? So here's what was that clam. saw a thing from Static in the Attic talking about how he's so sick of racism when really it's America, white people that are being held back. Well, if they just let people with the best grades in, sorry, it would be all Asian. They can fight it all they want, but they can, then they go, well, there's more than just good scores. Yeah, right. Like, oh, your football teams? Well, you could pass a law for that. They already have it. 14 on your SAT or something. Well, you have to know how to tie your shoe. As long as you can get a, good block there. I'm not saying that all athletes were dumb. I'm an athlete. I was an athlete. I'm just average size, though. Not one of those. So here's the Conestoga bells. The Conestoga wagon had these bells on them. I hope to find some that they say to the glory of God. I don't know how big the Conestoga wagons were. They have these replicas. I got the idea they were much bigger than the covered wagons that they took, what they claim on the Oregon Trail. But I was surprised to see that those Susquehanna giant people needed giant wagons in 1714. After the reset, what are you going to do? You got to make things out of wood. You got to make do with what you have. Oh my goodness, the Battle of the Monongahela? Do you know that there's a star fort at the Monongahela where it meets where the Three Rivers Stadium used to be in Pittsburgh? Underneath it. Now that is not a Conestoga. That's a regular covered wagon that the military would take out when they were going to go poison the Native Americans. And you know that pioneers and settlers is a military term, right? What am I spelling here? That's what I'm trying to prove. The term pioneer has its origins in military terminology, referring to soldiers who perform engineering and construction tasks. Go forward, clear the land, make friends. The term carries connotations of being the first to settle a territory, distinguishing it from other terms like settler. So Davy Crockett, Daniel Boone, settlers, military people, Homestead Acts. The pioneer originates originally as a foot soldier. Pioneer, pawn in a game. Go forth and conquer, and if you don't, well, at least you died for a good cause. Get going. Well, that's about it for tonight. So I want to remind you that indeed it is a flat earth nation. The golden age is past because the mud flood was Armageddon. Me and my friends are never going to tell you anything else. Why would we? We're trying to prove we have your best interest at heart. Amen. Hallelujah. Aho. Aloha. Arriba, dirty. Ciao. Sayonara. Auf Wiedersehen. Nakame. Adios. That's